Finding the slope given 2 points by Rhonda Johnson. Slope is the steepness of a line. To find the slope of a line given 2 points, we need to remember that the slope is equal to the rise over the run, or m equal the fraction rise over run. The rise represents the change in the y's. This is because the y values are what changes when we go up or down. The little triangle in front of y is called delta. It's a Greek letter, and the delta in front of the y is referring to the change in y's. The change in y's are found by taking y sub 2 minus y sub 1. This is the y value of 0.2 minus the y value of 0.1. The run represents the changes in the x's. This is because the x values are what changes when we go left or right. Delta x then would be referring to x sub 2 minus x sub 1, or the x value of the second point minus the x value of the first point. If we were given the 2 points, x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2, where the sub 1's represent the first point, the sub 2's represent the second point, then the formula for slope would be rise over run, which is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So now let's find the slope of a line that passes through the 2 points, negative 2, 3, and 2, 7. The first thing we want to do when we're trying to find the slope given 2 points is to identify our x sub 1 and y sub 1. The sub 1's represent the first point, and our first point is negative 2, 3. So x sub 1 would be negative 2, and y sub 1 would be positive 3. Next we want to identify the x sub 2, y sub 2. Since the second point is 2, 7, then x sub 2 would be 2 and y sub 2 would be 7. Next we want to substitute these values into the slope formula, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. This would give us 7 minus 3 over 2 minus negative 2. Now all that's left to do is to do the math. 7 minus 3 equals 4, and 2 minus negative 2 is equal to 4, but 4 divided by 4 equals 1. So the slope of the line that passes through the points negative 2, 3 and 2, 7 is positive 1. Now let's look at the same problem graphically. We learned previously that graphically we count the rise and we put it over the run. So if I put my pencil on the first point, I would rise 4 and go right 4, so it's positive 4 over positive 4, which is equal to positive 1. Notice that we get the same answer working it both algebraically and graphically. Now let's find the slope of the line that passes through the 2 points negative 1, 5 and 4, negative 1. The first thing we need to do to find the slope given 2 points is to identify your x sub 1, y sub 1. The x sub 1, y sub 1 represents the x and y values of point 1. Our first point is negative 1, 5, so x sub 1 equal negative 1 and y sub 1 equal 5. The second point, which is represented by x sub 2 and y sub 2, is 4, negative 1. So x sub 2 is 4 and y sub 2 would be negative 1. Now substitute the values for x sub 1 and y sub 1 and x sub 2, y sub 2 into your slope formula. Your slope formula, remember, is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So our slope can be found by taking negative 1 minus 5 over 4 minus negative 1. Now do the math. Negative 1 minus 5 equal negative 6, and 4 minus negative 1 would give us a positive 5. So the slope for this line would be negative 6/5. Because slope is the rise over the run, we do not rewrite the improper fraction as a mixed number. This is the only time it is acceptable to leave an improper fraction. So the slope of the line that passes through the 2 points negative 1, 5 and 4, negative 1 is negative 6/5. And again, we can look at this graphically. I would rise 6 and go to the left 5. So rise is 6 and run is negative 5, which again gives us a slope of negative 6/5. For the next example, we want to find the slope of the line that passes through the points negative 2, 3 and 4, 3. So x sub 1 equal negative 2, y sub 1 equal 3. x sub 2 equal 4, and y sub 2 equal 3. So the slope, being y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1, would be 3 minus 3 over 4 minus negative 2, which, after doing the math, we get 0 divided by 6. And 0 divided by any number equals 0. The slope would then be 0. This means that the line is special. It's a horizontal line. When the y's are the same, there is no vertical change, so there is no slope. If the x's are the same, then you have a vertical line because there is no horizontal change. An example would be the line that passes through the points 3, negative 5, and 3, 2. X sub 1 would be 3, y sub 1, negative 5, x sub 2 would be 3, and y sub 2 would be 2. So the slope would be 2 minus negative 5 over 3 minus 3, which gives us 7 over 0. But the number one rule of math is that you can never divide by 0. So when this happens, you get an undefined or no slope.